A very pleasant good morning, everybody. March Madness is upon us. So welcome to the show. It's the morning briefing. Jeff DeForest, that is Mike Lubitz here on NoFilter.net and Caffeine TV. And as exciting as it is to know that at 12:15, 800 college basketball games tip off, all of which you're capable of wagering on in a zillion different fashions. There are so many ways. It's the old Paul Simon thing, right? 50 ways to lose your money. And that's happening with March Madness. Of course, we talked about the legendary status of the March Madness brackets, where the cleaning lady always wins the pool at the office. So just give her the money right now. Say, hey, you're doing a great job. Here's $20. Take the kids out to breakfast or something. Because I know I have no chance of filling out a bracket. In fact, I have to say this, Lubie, and I'll admit, I think your method and your approach is the right way to go. I filled out no brackets.
No.
I end up telling people I was going to be in pools, and I'm one of those guys that go, hey, DeForest never paid. Because I just didn't feel like doing it. I don't know why. Now there are individual games. We're going to give a couple out from our expert handicappers, a consensus of our expert handicappers, the games that seem to appeal to them the most.
Yes.
And it's an unusual situation where you have a team that is seated lower than the other team, but yet they're favored in the game. Which tells you what, Lubie, that the people that do this for a living, they don't want to lose. They're not fooled by the NCAA committee. They don't give a fuck about NET or any of these other cockamamie numbers that they've come up with that throws everything askew, my friends. It's almost like the steroid era in baseball, where no numbers mean anything anymore. You have a guy hitting 75 home runs by the All-Star break. Can you compare that? Trying to make it real compared to what? Can you compare that to Roger Maris on the last day of the season in the rain with a crowd of about 18,000 at Yankee Stadium to watch this phenomenal accomplishment? Nobody ever thought that 60 home runs would ever be eclipsed. And boom, there it is. Line drive, right field. It's gone.
Exactly.
It was great. But, yeah, I mean, there's a zillion ways to get involved here in the tournament. We'll get into some of that. And we have some consensus handicapper material for you here. 2 games we're going to give out here. 2 games. But we have to begin with this. And I had to do a lot of research to come up with this, and I'm not sure that I have it right, Lubie. Is that uncommon? No. Anana Wakuso.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying to you? Anana Wakuso. Now, maybe I should say that with a little bit more anger, a little bit more of a dramatic impact there. Anana Wakuso. Anana Wakuso. Anana Wakuso.
No idea what you're saying.
Japanese, my friend. It's a Japanese lesson here, and I believe the translation is, and I'm not sure. I'm not 1,000% sure. You're probably going to laugh at me if you speak Japanese. Anana Wakuso translates to, you're fucked.
Yeah.
And why do we bring this up, Lubie? Have you seen this story? Shohei Ohtani and the interpreter? Turns out Shohei Ohtani's interpreter, while he was just spewing out these beautiful, lovely cliches, as if they were written by some guy who had just finished off a book of haiku. Because Ohtani sounds like he's a really good guy. He's really into it. He's in love with the game. He loves playing here in the United States. I don't know. Do people, is it fair to get on somebody for not learning to speak English after spending a lot of time in this country, especially if you're in the limelight? I always respect this because I can't, all of the times, and I don't know, I don't want to get into any kind of, cancel culture thing here, especially not on No Filter, but all of the kitchens that I worked in Los Angeles, I mean, what language is being spoken most prominently? That would be Spanish, Libby.
Yep.
The one brutal mistake that my mother made in her lifetime was pushing me to take up French.
Well, that's weird.
As opposed to Spanish. Now, how much more valuable as an announcer would I have been if I'd been able, especially with all of the work that I did in the sport of boxing? Or anything for that matter at this point, baseball, would it not be a tremendous advantage, Louis? You speak, you habla a little bit of Espanol, do you not?
It's funny. That's what I was just, my big lament is I'm born and raised in South Florida. And it's not as much Spanish as people think, but there's lots of Spanish. I worked at what is called the Sawgrass Mall, which is like tourism hub number 1. And my Spanish actually got decent. I took 4 years of Spanish into Spanish honors. And I've also now been dating my wife for 7 years and married her for 3. She's Dominican. Her grandparents, who I adore, only speak Spanish. So
and you have no idea what they're fucking talking about.
I should be fluent.
Yeah.
It's my big sadness in life. I'm actually very good at learning things. I suck at learning languages. I can pass off my Spanish, but I can't sit there and have a conversation. I can understand what they're talking about, the crux, but I can't have a conversation. And that's the thing that sucks. Like I'm actually I did the Duolingo thing. Like I pick it up a little bit, but it's really hard for me to get into conversational Spanish. So I understand I can't espouse any grief to anyone who's been here because it's hard for me to learn languages. So a lot of guys do pick it up, but a lot of guys we've seen to this day, Ichiro still has a interpreter because he doesn't trust his English, even though he's been here for what 20 years now.
Like, yeah, you would think he probably picked up enough to be able to speak it. Now, there are guys that can speak the language but don't feel comfortable necessarily. They have a microphone in front of them. They're on national television. Yeah. And let's face it, you can tell sometimes when somebody is not fully fluent in the English language when they're doing an interview. For some reason, that sparks and is a catalyst for a lot of resentment towards some athletes, Lubie. I don't know if it's going to be applicable to Shohei Ohtani because everybody seemed to accept that he was going to be speaking through an interpreter, that maybe he understood a little bit of English. You'll see this a lot where we have a guy that's being interviewed and has a Spanish interpreter standing next to him, but he understands the question. So he's able to answer without the interpreter relaying the question and probably would be able to answer in English, understandable, comprehensible English, but nonetheless chooses to answer in Spanish just because, as we said, just feels more comfortable that way. I got sandbagged on that badly one time with the great Roberto Duran, who, by the way, we want to wish all the best as he's recovering from a little heart procedure that he had done. Roberto Duran, Manos de Piedro. How many tight ends have you rooted for if you were a New York Jets fan that had the Manos de Piedro? The fabled hands of stone. But somebody told me, and I was doing a radio show a couple of hours, and I was dedicating an hour on some days to interviewing somebody one-on-one for like an hour. I thought that was, a good thing. I thought it was Bob Costas all of a sudden going across the nation. And a friend of mine tells me that, hey, I can get Roberto Duran to come down to the studio there, and he's fluent in English. He'll do the whole thing in English. And sure enough, the very first question I ask him, he looks over at the guy that was sitting with him, and he's waiting for an interpretation, and he proceeds to answer in Spanish. Now, I'm taking calls on this show, believe it or not.
Oh, no.
And it turned into Radio Mom B. I mean, it was unbelievable. I may as well have just brought up some Bavarian Oompa music in the background, and we could have just traveled off to Panama together. Well, it would have been great, but yeah, sandbag. He spoke no English, although he did understand it. And later I learned that he would have been capable of answering these questions in English, but he just doesn't feel comfortable doing it. Why do we resent that? Do we resent that in Shohei Ohtani? Is it a roadblock? I saw social media is especially cruel, is it not, Lubie?
Yes.
Especially cruel. Carlos Alcaraz, fantastic tennis player. I mean, the guy is so exciting to watch. He had a little bit of a bump in the road there after he had achieved tremendous heights. I think he ascended all the way very briefly. He might have been number one in the world over Novak Djokovic, who was out for a brief period of time. And I want to say that Alcaraz for at least, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I think he actually went all the way to number one in the world. Now he's number 2 or 3 now, number 2, I believe. And yet people were trolling this guy because he didn't speak fluent English, even though like a year ago, he didn't speak any English.
Exactly.
And the guy is doing well. I mean, he could get up there and actually be a commentator. Right? And so you have to accept that. But I don't know why people get in such a so-called twist about stuff like that. But in this case, Ohtani, I don't know what he would say if he did speak English to this guy. The gentleman's name is Ipe Mizuhawa.
Okay.
Ipe Mizuhawa. That sounds like you're fucked in Japanese, doesn't it? Ipe Mizuhawa. If you say that with the right intonation and the right kind of anger in your eyes, does it not sound like you're fucked? This guy screwed Ohtani. I don't know if you're familiar. You didn't see this story? He apparently was a degenerate, sick gambler and blew like $4 or $5 million that he owed, and you don't have legalized sports betting in California. Now, you would have thought this guy might have found another way to make these bets, but he ends up betting with an illegal bookmaking ring that was being investigated by the FBI, and that's how he got caught stealing $4.5 million, supposedly, from Shohei Ohtani's accounts. While he was basically standing next to Ohtani and says, yes, Mr. Ohtani says he's very happy to be a Dodger.
No.
No matter what Otani said. Otani is talking in Japanese for like 30 minutes. And then this guy, Mizuhama, would look at the press and go, he says he's very happy to be here in Los Angeles.
Exactly.
You're like, holy shit, what are we talking about here? It's like when they used to go to the corner in those HBO fights and they had the Spanish interpreter and you would hear the trainer just cursing and swearing for like 60 straight seconds between rounds. And the interpreter would say, he wants him to throw the jab. I'm like, he didn't say that. That has to be just a blatant misinterpretation of what was actually being said. But this guy was fleecing Otani for $4.5 million, and it sparked a little controversy because it looked like Otani was involved in this, and he wasn't betting on baseball. There wasn't like a Pete Rose situation. But what kind of degenerate do you have to be to lose $5 million betting in a short period of time, Lubie? Otani's only been in the country for a few years, right? What is it, 4 or 5 years that Otani's been in Major League Baseball? And this guy travels with him, and in that span of time, he loses $5 million. Holy Phil Mickelson. What are we talking about? That's unbelievable.
That's amazing.
What a bizarre story, man. That was crazy. Dodgers playing right now. They were getting stumped last time I checked by the San Diego Padres after they rallied yesterday for an opening day win. Should opening day be in the United States of America, Lubie? Is this a disgrace brought upon us by the avarice and greed of Major League Baseball?
I think it's weird. I don't understand it. And especially since they go back and play more spring training after this for the next like week plus.
Yeah. The season's on for those two teams, but these other guys, they still have 2 weeks to get ready. Get the fuck out of here.
I don't understand.
I want to see Crosley Field, and the bunting is unveiled as the Cincinnati Reds get the honor every year. Wasn't that a tradition in baseball? Of playing the first game that was played, they would play like the day before everybody else at Crosley Field in Cincinnati. I guess the Reds haven't been exactly the big red machine over the last 40 years.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe they're not accorded that consideration anymore. All right, 2 games, Lubie. NCAA Tournament. These are teams that our handicappers love, absolutely love. Drake laying 1.5 over Washington State. Drake, not the cupcake that a lot of people might think they are. They are actually the higher seed, the lower seed in that game, but they're favored by 1.5. Drake to go ahead and cover that 1.5 against Washington State. That game is today. And then tomorrow, not Rick Pitino. He got hosed in the minds of a lot of people and didn't get into the tournament with St. John's. I don't know. Is it really a host job, Lubie? Not a whole lot to cry about there. You lose 8 out of 10 in the middle of the season, and people tend to go ahead and maybe formulate the opinion that you're not very good, Rick. You're not very good. But a lot of people love New Mexico. New Mexico laying 2.5 over Clemson. Having not seen much of New Mexico, Lubie, I did see a little bit of Clemson basketball this year. I don't think they're all that good. I'm going to go ahead and take the advice of all of our handicapping experts. New Mexico laying 2.5 over Clemson. That's a game on Friday. And another game that a lot of people like, I'm not sure how I feel about this. I haven't seen enough Samford basketball to go ahead and bet this with conviction. But with Kansas top scorer out for this game, and I believe they were in the throes of a woeful slump at the end of the season. Kansas, they were getting stomped on at the end of the year. They lost, like 5 of their last 6, something like that?
Well, and I think they're missing their
top scorer is out, yeah. He's out for the tournament.
Exactly.
Kansas is laying 7.5 against Samford, who they play like everybody. They pull guys out of the stands, and they start running. And they go like 10 deep, this team. And they're efficient enough to convince a lot of people that laying 7.5 with Kansas is not going to be a favorable thing for your bank account. So go ahead and take the points with Samford. That's according to some. That's not going to be one of our official picks, Lubie. So when the hate mail comes in, address it to a friend of mine who said, yeah, I love Samford in this game. But a lot of people share that same opinion. So that might be one worth looking at if you're looking for an upset. I don't know about money line, but Kansas compromised, and Samford, a team that can really come at you in waves. And a lot of people like them getting 7.5 against Kansas as the NCAA tournament kicks off today, 12:15. Will you be gargling with Visine? Are you going to be positioned to go ahead and you're actually going to watch all of these games?
I mean, I'll be home, and then we'll be out somewhere. There will be TVs, so I will keep an eye on it. Then I'll be home, and then I'll be active tonight somewhere where there'll be lots of TVs on. So yes, I will keep an eye on the tournament all day long. No, I won't be on my couch for 12 hours today, but I presume that's what Saturday will be like. I presume Saturday and as much of Sunday as possible will be that.
And last night, Grambling gets in. Grambling wins their game to play their way into the tournament. I want to say, is that their first ever NCAA tournament appearance?
I've never heard of them even around basketball. I know with football with Eddie Robinson, but
holy Willis Reed. I mean, when was the last time that they were relevant in basketball? Wasn't it when Willis Reed was playing there?
I didn't know he played there. So then
I think he did,
maybe,
yeah.
Maybe.
With the memory as foggy as it is, I mean, he might have played at Princeton, but I want to say Grambling, Willis Reed. And that was not a racist statement. All right, we have to run. We were on the border of a lot of crap today, weren't we?
Yes.
Anana Wakuso.
There you go.
I'm going to leave you with that, man. Shohei Ohtani fleeced by his interpreter. What a scumbag. All right, not that we're judgmental, Lubie. Not that we're judgmental. All right, we will see you guys tomorrow, Degenerate Friday. Hopefully your bracket won't be torn to shreds by the end of today, because that's always a negative situation. Well, I got crushed on the first day. Other than that, I did fine.
Yeah.
Right? Some guys beating us. Just, I have 2 teams out of 4 in the Final Four, right? Because he had 2 number 1 seeds going to the Final Four. And you're thinking, fuck you, asshole. I don't want to hear about your gambling expertise. You're a schmuck. Isn't that the worst? After you're losing, you're getting your ass kicked. And some other guy that you have no respect for in terms of his opinion, whether it's at the track, whether it's in the sports book, whether it's about anything to do with the world of sports or anything else for that matter. And then he's telling you, I got 2 out of 4 in the Final Four. How about that? And he's got like North Carolina, and this year he's got UConn.
Exactly.
Yeah, brilliant, man. I tell you what, you sure are a hell of a handicapper. All right, we have to get out of here. Thanks so much for being with us here on Caffeine TV, NoFilter.net. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest saying, Anana Wakuso. Till next time.